Good morning, evening, family. How y'all doing this morning? Good afternoon, or how you doing this evening? Whatever side of the diaspora that you on, welcome to the mental house. So glad I can be able to wake up and see another day, and also to be able to express what I feel today. And this subject today, what I feel in my heart, is something that is very near and dear to me. Um, it's something that transcends all color lines, so it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing. So we don't have to get caught up into that. But what is very important is most of us don't know how to resolve conflict. And not blaming anybody, I'm not saying you're responsible for not being able to resolve conflict, because in my opinion, it's a matter of bad programming. Okay? If you've never seen a model, or an example modeled for you where the adults in your life knew how to resolve conflict, knew how to have a healthy argument, then they would have showed that to you and I. So, because that's not something that we were exposed to, the result of that is not being very, very proactive, I should say, or not very secure in ourselves when it comes to resolving conflict. So, because I believe that everything that's wrong with us as individuals, i.e. collectively, that spills out into the community, family, and then that spills out into the community, that's all, in my opinion, a matter of programming. Once you go back into attack our families of origin, okay, and see all the damn dysfunction that we had to grow up expressing and living through as babies, not being able to express ourselves and just having to figure out how to maneuver through these parents who are fucked up emotionally, not ready parents, not meaning that they're bad people, but they're certainly not emotionally ready to be parents. And so we're born to these people, and emotionally we're not able to receive from them what we need to grow up to have these skills to be able to resolve conflict, okay, because it wasn't modeled for us. So I thought about my parents, so I had to start there with me, because this is something that I learned through the journey of rediscovery, and it was that my parents, for example, were married 26 years. And this is really going to be fucked up, so I want you to hold on to your horse and think about how dysfunctional this is. And so I'm sure you got some families out here that's experienced even worse, okay? So, but to give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is it. My mother and father were married 26 years. They got married when she was 18. He was 20. I'm sorry. She was 17 and he was 19. Her mom was dead, and so she didn't have to have, she had nobody. She was an orphan. She was pretty much an orphan. So it wasn't like she had to have parents' permission. Both of her parents were deceased by the time she was 17. My dad was 19. And he is the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever reach me. No, my dad's the son of a preacher man. So, the dogma that he experienced, and then he has 17 other siblings, and I guess his goal was to be a preacher as well. Whether it was forced upon him, whether it was something he walked into freely, I'll never know. I know that he is a man that's very learned, He loves to study. He loves to read. So, but he came from he's the son of a pastor. So, now my parents were married for 26 years. And in 26 years, I've never seen how they resolve conflict. Oh, I saw how they argue because I've never, in all honesty and fairness to my father, I've never seen him put his hands on my mother. But the verbal assault that my mother would give him, and I'm sure she had her reasons at that time, and that's not even for me to decide right now. What I'm saying is I was a very small child, and so were my siblings, sucking in their communication style. She would always be so dramatic and very upset and always fussing. I've never seen my parents communicate other than to argue with one another. And it was always seeming like it was my mother who was seemingly going on and on and on and on and on. And I don't know what my dad was doing, but he would be quiet. He would be like, oh, yeah, right, whatever. And I do know that he's an extreme narcissist. So when I speak about the personalities and the brilliance, my father is a very brilliant man. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about him a little bit later. He's in several books, and he is an author. But on the other hand, son of a preacher man, and he is very disciplined, but he's a straight narcissist. Okay? Now, somehow him and my mom crossed paths because like spirits catch, my mom is a straight narcissist, okay, with codependency. Okay, so that's what I got going on with and this is just me, analyzing how I grew up. And the reason why I say these things is because I never saw them communicate other than to argue. So I don't know what it's like to see them resolve their conflict. They didn't teach me that skill. I never saw them make up. So I don't know. All I know is what happens is they argue, and then the next thing people go on as if nothing happened. And there's a lot of families out there that they shut down, and the next time they see each other, they have a big knockdown, drag-out fight or argument, and then they shut down or whatever. But the next time they see each other, they act as if nothing has happened. They have no resolving conflict skills whatsoever. I never saw my parents kiss. They were married 26 years. I've never seen my parents kiss, show affection toward one another. I know you got some families on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Their house was full with sexual assaults and rapes, but I'm just talking about my experience. So that presented some type of dynamic in me as a woman, not even being able to see this type of stuff, okay, which is totally normal. My siblings and I, we really don't know anything about conflict resolution, problem solving. We got none of this stuff from our parents. Whatever we learned, we had to learn on our own if we took the time to realize that there may have been some issues in the way we communicate. And there's some of us that still struggle with that. Okay. Both my parents grew up, in my opinion, in a toxic environment. Because if you got too much religion going on in your house, you can say what you want to say. In my opinion, it can be a bit much for the children because they're just at the mercy of these people. And so no matter what they believe, whether their religion is white supremacy, whether their religion is Islam, it doesn't matter. What Christianity, it does not matter. Not saying that the comparing the two, but I'm saying a child has no choice in what his thought process is. And not only that, he or she is not being validated with their own thoughts because the adults have such a crazy agenda they don't have communication skills, so the children are sitting there absorbing all of this, and they're developing a program that's either going to put them on the codependent side of the spectrum or the narcissistic side of the spectrum. It can go either way. But I do believe that once we begin to start attacking our families of origin, and I say it over and over and over, and I don't want to think that this mantra is falling on deaf ears, because if you can just examine the way that you were brought up, examine the way your family resolve conflicts. I mean, we laugh about a lot of this shit, especially when we live in the ghetto, or in the hood, or we're poor, or some of the things that we laugh about. We really can't afford to not be at our best mentally, physically, emotionally. And once we begin to attack those places of origin, we'll know that, there's a lot of damage that we should try to resolve. Hold on. I'm going to get this call. So, we'll talk later. I'm back. But I'm going to wrap this up real quick. And what I wanted to say is, for those of us who have been exposed to a toxic environment, whether we know it or it's unbeknownst to us, if you could start right there in examining some of the responses emotionally that you made, messages subliminally or overtly that you were given by your parents, the first programmers, then if you can go back and begin to dissect that, do that type of work, I guarantee you, whether I'm here or crossed over, things on the planet will have begun to change. Because individuals together make families. Families make communities. I always say this. Communities, right, make the conglomerate, the whole state. So the way we deal with one another is how, whether we're prejudiced, whether we judge before the fact, whether we are living in fear, whether we don't understand the human dynamic, with all those things are based in ignorance, and they're based in people not knowing how to resolve conflict in a healthy, productive manner. Thank you. I hope that you begin to do that in your families, so we can stop. I definitely started in mine. So we can begin to address this dysfunction in these toxic environments that we have created for ourselves and our children. Thank you for listening. Why don't you like and hit the link and subscribe? And I'll see you next time in the mental house. Bye-bye.